today, Rhonda,
Oh,
and where are you dialing from?
I'm fine, except I have a little bit of a cold and I'm dialing in from my office in Germany.
Wonderful. Let's start from, learning a little bit about you and your expertise.
Okay. My name is Rhonda Bowen. I'm American, as you can probably hear from my accent, but I've lived and worked from Germany since 1983 and have had my own company here since 1988. I'm a global strategic communication guide, and I specialize in working with people I call BEST professionals. BEST stands for B for business, E for engineering, S for science, and T for technology, meaning all the things that I'm not. I love working with people who are my opposites because we have so many more perspectives to share. So I've been doing this for a long time. I've worked professionally and personally, meaning in the same room with people from more than 70 countries. And what people say about me as sort of my tagline for who I am is they say I'm fit, which is not like, doing fitness, physically fit, but it's flexible, insightful, and tolerant. And those are the things that I believe in most when mentoring people and helping them do things. Also, the fact, as we are today, it's not just one person that's working on this. There are many people working on making the world better. And I believe in the power of co-creation. It's much better when there are many experts in the room and not just one person. That's actually very important. And I also believe in what I call the bottle and the label concept. So if you have a bottle of something and you're inside the bottle, that's wonderful. But I'm outside your bottle and I read the label. And what it says on the label and what is inside the bottle is not always the same, because this bottle says chocolate in a bottle. But this is wine made with cocoa beans. So it's not exactly in the bottle what it says on the outside of the bottle. And that's what we need to make sure that we can check. And to do that, I use two important frameworks. One I call create, develop. It's what we do in communication. There's 9 elements to make sure that we do things better. And I also believe that when we communicate across cultures are not the fact that I have an American passport, but I live in Germany and you're in Poland and other people are all over other places in the world. That's great. But much of what's happening now in culture has nothing to do with your residence or your nationality or passport. It has to do with your organizational culture. So what division or what department are you working in? And why can't engineers talk to salespeople? And why can't marketing people talk to finance people? That's just as much a cultural divide in many cases, even if the people are in the same country and speak the same language. It's not always what we classically think of as culture. And the second format is what I call Whisperation in action. Whiz from wisdom, which you either bring to the conversation or you're looking for to get from someone else in the conversation. And then the inspiration you take out of what you've heard and what you've contributed. So we all get new insights when we're in a group and there are wonderful things and the magic happening. But the most important thing is the inaction part. What do you do with all of those wonderful things you've heard? And how do you actually apply that? And I have a number of formats that I use called Aqua or Treats or various things where we can get together and actually find ways to find our wisdom, get the inspiration, and then put it into action.
Great. I actually have, that when you mention different perspectives, I have a wonderful phrase in my native language which says, you often see dust in someone's eye, but you don't see a wooden lock in your own.
Exactly.
I love this one.
Exactly.
Absolutely true. Yeah. So let's start with my favorite question. It's kind of tricky, but, a lot of mentors, they mention, capabilities of reading minds, and I'll see what you answer. If you could have any superpower for one day, what would it be and how would you use it to advance your field?
This is a wonderful question, and I thought about it for a very long time. And it has something to do with reading minds, but the other way around. So if I could give myself and everyone else a superpower, it would be some little prediction mechanism in your mind that says, when you're planning to say something or write something to someone else, what reaction will you get from the other person? Because if you find out the reaction before you speak or before you write, You then have a chance to tweak it, to make it fit, to make sure the person is getting everything that they need to be getting out of the communication. So that would be a great superpower for us to have. And I'm not sure how we get that, but we'll figure that out as we go
This
along.
is something unique.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, wow. Okay, so now maybe you can share, one or two instances where, communication played a pivotal role, in transforming a company's culture. Maybe you can even provide some case studies that you had.
Yeah, I've got two things that I think would be helpful for people today, because these are things that are ongoing, but in many different places. I mentioned before the fact that there's organizational culture and not just nationality or residential culture, geographical culture. And I was working with a lady who was the manager of a division within a chain of 5 different groups that all talked to the same customers. And the whole point was to keep passing the customer along from one group to the next. And this was not working at all. And as a female in a managerial position in an IT company, where not so many women are managers, and the whole point was, how does she get to the fact that her colleagues, who were all men, were saying things to the client that she should have been saying and were not true. And we came up with the idea that she had always had this idea in the back of her head about, if I want to get to the top, I have to break through the glass ceiling. That's a thing that many of us have heard for people who feel they're not in the right position to move forward, to move up in their organization. We decided her biggest problem was not the ceiling. Her biggest problem was the walls. The walls are made out of glass. Like in many meeting rooms, you maybe know in companies, everybody can look through the wall and see there's a meeting, and you think you know what's going on, but you really don't, because there's the wall there. You can't hear everything. So what was happening in this organization, a big matrix organization, as I said, IT, lots of people doing lots of different things, everybody was saying different things to the client, and the client was totally confused. And in the worst cases, the client was rescinding from the contract and saying, I don't want to work with you anymore. So if you get your glass walls organized, you'll be in a much better place then to see if you need to go through the glass ceiling or not. But getting the glass walls set up is the most important, I think, first. And this is going on all over the place. This has nothing to do with whether you're on premise or remote. It has nothing to do with whether you're in the same country or in different countries or what your background is. This can happen to everyone, everywhere.
And I
so
feel
I
like
think
remotely, it's even more complicated now
exactly,
that so many teams are remote. It's even more
exactly.
complicated because sometimes, we get lost in translation when it comes to all of the messages, emails, Slack.
Yes,
Absolutely.
exactly. And so the coordination gets you through those glass walls, as you said. That's absolutely wonderful. The second one is something with what a lot of us, I don't think, realize when we hear the word negotiation. I've been fortunate to work for over 15 years with a very large global chemical company and helping their people with negotiation. And everybody thinks negotiation of like, oh, I'm going to go and buy a new car. So I go to the dealer and I see the car I like, and I ask about the price and I ask about the delivery time, and we go back and forth and back and forth. And if I don't like it, I just go to another dealership and then I can buy a car there. What if there's not more than one dealership? What if you're talking to a government agency? There's only one. You don't have any options. There's no other place to go. I talk about one chance negotiation. Meaning, if you don't get a deal, whatever that looks like, with a government association, in this case, for example, it was getting new products approved to be sold in the country. If you didn't have a successful negotiation, at the end, your product was not being sold in this country, meaning you were losing millions, and you were doing a disservice to all of the customers who wanted your product and weren't able to get it because the government said no. And so talking with someone where you have to make sure that it works, because you only have one chance and nothing else. And it's not how much money it costs. It's not the delivery time. It's not any of those classic things we think of with sales negotiation. Negotiation in this form that I call one chance has a whole different way of looking at things. And the emphasis you need is so different. And most of the time, if you're doing things in that mindset, it also helps with those classic negotiations. And for people who are doing things like a lot of my clients, if you're applying for a new job, It's a very similar thing. You either get the job or you don't. So it's not just some big, wonderful government agency thing. This could be in lots and lots of different cases in your life. But the important thing is not to go in with this Turkish bazaar attitude. Well, I'll say a little cheaper price and then they'll say a little cheaper price. A lot of negotiation in the world doesn't work like that. And once people understand what's really important in negotiation, then you get a chance to do those things where you only have one opportunity and make sure you make the best of it.
For me, negotiation is pretty much like art. It's something that, for example, AI will never replace because
That's
it has
right.
to be tailored to each unique situation. Absolutely true.
Yeah.
That was general, but now let's dive a little bit more. And can you provide us some, mistakes that businesses make when it comes to their internal communication within the company?
Yeah. Let me go back to my framework that I mentioned at the beginning, Creavelop. Creavelop has 9 different elements, and they're put in groups of 3s. And the second group of 3 is called VEO. Sounds like CEO, right? Yeah, the CEO is the person in a company who's basically steering how everything goes. And if you think of VEO in that sense, V stands for view, E stands for expectations, and O stands for objectives. So if you think about your view of things when you communicate with someone, what happens if your counterpart is not an expert? What happens if your counterpart is an expert? You have a conversation that's totally different, depending on who your counterpart is. How much does that other person need to know? How much do they want to know? You may want to tell them everything. Working with a lot of scientific experts, they want to give all the details. Their view is you need everything to understand. For somebody else, that may not be the case. So many people are not taking the point of view of their counterpart into association to make sure that they're doing the right things in the conversation, because it can really make or break what's going on. And the thing that goes from the view, which is your general overview of things, into what happens next is E, and E stands for expectations. This is something I've been hearing from many, many people recently. I don't know what people want me to do. I don't understand what my boss is saying. There's not that people don't understand the language. They don't understand what's behind it. What are you expecting out of this conversation in the first place? You and I have talked about this. We know what we expect from each other today, and that's why this is going so well. But if you don't get the expectations aligned, you're talking this way, I'm talking that way. We're not coming to a real conversation. Everybody's just giving information. And that's why I talk about not managing expectations, because I don't think you can do that. You can only match. I have my expectations, you have yours, and somehow they have to come together. And when they do, then we will know what's feasible for the conversation and what is not. Because if you want one thing and I want something totally different and they don't fit together, we don't need to have the conversation, because it's not really helping anybody in the end. And what happens after the expectations is the objective. What do we want to get out of this? How much time do we have? If you and I decided we were going to have 2 hours for this conversation, I would have totally different objectives than what we're doing now, for example. If I don't know what my audience wants to know, and I just have to start saying things and hope they figure it out, that's not a way for me to reach my objectives. And it's certainly not a way for the people listening if they haven't had a chance to say what they want to get out of the situation in the end. So are you just showcasing what you know? Are you actually giving people something to work with? Like if you're training or mentoring someone, what is it? They have to be able to take this and do something with it. It's not you just being a dictionary or an encyclopedia and saying all the things you know about something. There are times when that's important, but in our case, it's conversation, it's knowledge exchange. And if you don't think about VEO and a lot of other things, when you have a conversation, you make mistakes, not because you don't know what you're doing, but because you haven't thought back to what's happening on the other side. And that's why I said the superpower would be so wonderful. If we could figure that out ahead of time, so many more of our conversations would be more efficient, more effective, wouldn't take so much time, and we'd have a better result. at the end. And VEO is part of a framework to help you get there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now that we've discussed some mistakes, maybe, we can go to something positive. And you, as a Gleek mentor, maybe you can advise some steps that organizations, so leaders who help shape those organizations, can take to, to improve team collaboration, even external collaboration with investors or their partners.
Yeah, I mean, much of that was the things that we talked about before. That works anywhere, but the thing I'd like to bring out today, because it's sort of top of mind for many people and everybody's talking about it, but I don't think we're all thinking about what we should be doing about it, is what's happening with artificial intelligence. And I hear so many people now talking about artificial intelligence. We're doing that at Gleek as well. Lots of people are telling you all kinds of things about artificial intelligence. So many people are afraid of it. So many people don't know exactly what it is and how to work with it. There are so many things going on, but I really think that AI is going to change the way we work, including the way we communicate with other people. I heard yesterday on the radio that the organization that gives Grammys for music has now made rules about how much of a song can be made by artificial intelligence. So it's changing all kinds of things that are happening in our lives. And I think what we need to remember is AI is going to change the world the same way the internet did, the same way mobile phones did, the same way television did. It's not that this is something we can't handle. We've been doing this all the time. But the point is, when we're talking about communication in particular, that's when you talk to people whom you don't normally talk to, or you have to talk to them about something different, like if you're having a conflict with a client or a partner, for example. The important thing is you can get wonderful ideas on what you could be saying to somebody by using AI. So if I have a conflict coming up with someone and I'm not sure, I can put in a question as a prompt. I can get lots of answers out. But the important thing is not to take those answers the way they are. It's like anybody who was ever given a script and told you have to sell something. I've coached so many people in my life who said, Rhonda, I have to use this script from my company, but it doesn't sound like me. And I don't come across when I use this script, but the company says I must use this script. So this isn't something new in that sense, but one of my personal mentors says that when you use AI, it's like baking a cake. If you go to a bakery and say, yeah, you need a cake, there will be somebody who bakes the actual cake part of it, but the baker, the top person in the company, will say, do you want a birthday cake? Do you want a wedding cake? Whose name needs to be on the cake? Whatever, all the nice things. Somebody else, AI, bakes the cake. You, as the baker, is the person who puts on the icing, puts on the decorations, puts on all the things that make it specific to this particular person for this particular occasion and in the way they want to receive the information, in this case, a cake. So when you're talking about things and you're talking to people, even if you're not quite sure, it's great to get some input. It's great to get feedback, but it's also great to make sure that you need to talk to people who help you develop your voice. One of the things that we do at Gleek is talk to people who say, this is what's going on in my life. What can I do to improve it? And AI can be one of those tools, but in the end, you need to be speaking with your own voice. You need to be imparting the things that you need, meaning you need to make sure the nice icing is on your cake. Because when you do that, as you said, AI will never take over certain things like negotiation, but this building of the relationships with people, this way to be really, really effective. AI is very efficient. It can give you many, many things very, very quickly. But what is the effect? To be effective, it has to be you, and you have to know who you're speaking with. And of course, that will help both you and your counterpart reach whatever the goal or the objective is. And that's really the most important thing. So use all the tools you have, like AI, for the things that they can help you with, but learn your craft and work with somebody who can help you develop who you are, because that's what it really comes down to in the end.
I absolutely agree about this. I feel for me, AI is a tool, but ultimately nothing can replace a human being because the
Exactly.
world is so fast paced. We need to be twice more efficient than we were like even 10 years ago. And we need
Exactly.
something to help us, and AI is there to help. And if you're skilled enough, if you know what you're doing, AI will just help you with this. So it will help you to become better, but ultimately you make the last choice. I
Exactly.
absolutely agree about this. Thank
Wonderful.
you so much for this, Rhonda. It's been 20 minutes and it's been such an insightful conversation. So many vivid examples of how communication, within teams should happen. And, thanks to you also for being our approval committee member. So, insides and outsides of our organization, how Gleek works. So I really appreciate having this conversation with you and have a great day.
And I've loved the opportunity to speak with you and with everybody else who will get the chance to watch the recording.
Absolutely. I like this recording so much that I feel like I will take, and crop it into reels just, to present the information in bits for everyone. So
Wonderful. This is great. And as I said, I look forward to having individual conversations with people as well. If you've been motivated by this, please reach out to us at Gleek. We love to make sure we're giving you the support that's really necessary.
absolutely. Thank you so much and have a good
Okay.
day.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.